And so it was in those days that Arthur Lastworm set up his throne in Avalon, laid the foundations of the city, and built up its walls. And at that time Our Lady in Burning Stone set forth from her sanctuary, that she might be wed to her beloved. And she gathered up her treasures and her secrets to form her dowry, and she traveled from her sanctuary to the place where she would be wed. But the journey was 3 days long, and her presence was so bright and so burning that the people could not long endure it. So after a day's travel, she came to the castle of the giants walking, and she said to the three brothers there, "Grant me your hospitality, that I might be hidden by the walls of your castle, and the people of the earth might have shade for the night." And the brothers looked upon her, and they were entranced, for she was beautiful and powerful. And they schemed among themselves, and they said, "Our Lady, you are too bright for us. If you were to come into our castle, we should burn away to ash." And Our Lady agreed, and she gave to them the bags which held her treasures and her secrets. And she said, "Wrap yourselves in these, and you will be spared my presence." But as soon as they took the bags, they sprang upon her and wrapped her in them. And they seized upon her treasures, and began to divide them among themselves. But very little can be hidden from the Lord in raging skies, and his servants the winds brought him news of what had transpired. And immediately he set forth and flew to find his bride. And he came to the castle of the giants walking, and he fell upon it. And the giants heard him coming, for he rode upon the storm, and they fled from his presence. And so our Lord pursued them. The strongest was Kilimanjaro, and he fled to the south. But his strength did not save him. For our Lord overtook him and struck him down with his sword of lightning. And there Kilimanjaro perished. The swiftest was Shenandoah, and he fled to the west. But his speed did not prevail him. For our Lord set forth the winters, and they chilled Shenandoah to the bone, and there he perished. But the last was Everest, and he was the most clever, and he did not run. Rather, he hid, and, distracted in pursuing Everest's brothers, our Lord could not find him. And so our Lord rose up, and he sent forth the storm, and he extinguished every fire on earth. And in the darkness and in the cold, he gazed forth, knowing that only his beloved could continue to burn in the presence of the rain. However, even so, the world was great and large, and our Lord could not search all of it at once. And so it was that Arthur Lastworm looked up from his castle, and he saw, through the rain and the wind, the light of a fire on the distant mountain. And he turned to his adviser and his counselor, Merrill of Linz, and he said, "What is this?" And she said, "We shall go and discover it." And so they set out through the wind and the rain, in the hopes of saving Avalon and bringing fire there once more. When they climbed the mountain, there they found Everest, and with him his ill-gotten treasures, and with him Our Lady in Burning Stone. She looked upon these two and begged them for their aid. However, Everest was beyond them. Not only was he a giant, but he had taken from Our Lady the power of the jaws of Nidog, and he wielded it against them, and they could not prevail. However, Our Lady saw this and offered them a boon of her own. She gave unto Arthur the hands of Michael, and to Merrill the heart of wisdom. And they wielded them against Everest and the jaws of Nidog. For 3 days and 3 nights the battle raged. And the people of Avalon looked out, and they saw rising from the mountain light like wings of fire. And at the end, even the cleverness of Everest would not prevail him, and he perished. And Merrill of Linz was seen no more, and laid to rest with her people. And Arthur, the last man of Worms, descended from the mountain alone. But he had freed Our Lady in Burning Stone, and she went to our Lord in Raging Skies, and they were married as was planned. And at their wedding, they bestowed upon their benefactor a favor. So Arthur was no longer known as the last man of Worms, a man from a city that no longer existed. But instead, he was thenceforth known as Arthur the Phoenix-born.